Hello, CDA 96. I hope that all of you ladies are doing very well. I am recording this video as a supplement to the PowerPoint and the resources that you are going to be receiving in the mail or via online if that's your preference. One of the things that we were going to be talking about this week was challenging behaviors. So as a tie-in from last week, we were going to talk about a specific strategy that you can use when addressing challenging behaviors in your program. This strategy is called Flip It. Flip It is something that is totally based in social emotional skills, and it ties into any other developmentally appropriate strategy that you can use for addressing challenging behaviors. I personally like Flip It because I've said it 1,000 times to you guys, that our relationship and understanding feelings, these are two huge things with social emotional development that are critical to the development in other domains for small children. So we can't have the cognitive ability of reading, writing, and arithmetic if we don't first understand how to be a good friend, be a good citizen, and recognize when we are getting frustrated, anxious, or angry. So what Flip It does is it takes a look at the feelings that are being, that are contributing factors to the behaviors that we see in small children. And this can be used with toddlers, this can be used with preschoolers, and it can even be used with your infants, just with a little bit of modification. So what I'm going to talk to you real briefly are the 4 stages of Flip It and how you can do them. I am going to be attaching a resource for you to practice using Flip It with some practice pictures, and then we will use discussion via email or via Skype to address any questions that you have. So what I want you to do is remember that adult-sized problems are not more important because they're not child-sized. So when children are on the floor tantruming because you ran out of peaches, that's not something that we can roll our eyes at and be thinking that it's silly, because this is a child-sized problem that deserves all the respect that an adult-sized problem would. So when we're looking through the eyes of children, when we're trying to put ourselves in their place and kind of figure out their perspective, we need to not only notice what they're feeling, but also what they're reacting to in the environment around them. So sometimes the negative emotions that children have are going to be the direct result of something that we can and should change about our environment or about ourselves as caregivers. So empathy, the skill that we want children to have, that is going to help us as caregivers become more aware of the child and more aware of ourselves. So what we need to do is try and embrace all of the lessons that these challenging behaviors are teaching us. And how we can do that is by using Flip It, which I'm going to talk to you about, because we can start to feel overwhelmed, we can start to feel guilty, and by addressing those feelings through empathy, we can figure out what it is that we can do to help the children. So one of the things that we need to sometimes do is flip ourselves, just kind of rethink our own the place that we're coming from as far as our personal feelings about behaviors. And this is why addressing those hot button behaviors is very important. Understanding when we know our limit, when we need some help, or when we maybe need to step away for a second, take a deep breath, model those calm down behaviors. Remember that behavior is always going to be a method of communication. And sometimes children are behaving this way because they feel icky. They have that ick inside of them, and this is that weight that children carry sometimes, the negativity that they feel because of the way that they're being responded to by the adults in their life, the risk factors in their life, the poverty that they may come from, or the food insecurity that they might be dealing with. We talked about this last class, how ick can come from internal, from our home environment, and then from our community at large. So when we have internal ick, children could be behaving this way because they have low self-esteem, because they have a learning disability, because they have been told that they have low value. The family ick, that can be financial stress, that can be divorce, that could be the way the adults in their lives are dealing with conflict. And then the environmental ick, violent TV, bullying at school, systematic poverty. These are things that can weigh children down. But remember that children are not the sum of that ick. They are very resilient and they can overcome. Ickness does not equal sickness. So having ick is a part of life. We all come from a place, we all have that ick that comes with us when we make these decisions. But ickness does not equal sickness. So when we're talking about flip it, understand that some children have these things kind of already going on inside of them. So it's hard for them to understand how these things force them to react. So what I want you to understand is the first step of flip it is identifying the feelings. That's the F. So what we need to understand is that the feelings are the root of what is happening, why these challenging behaviors are occurring. So what we need to do is we need to, with empathy, tell children what we see and hear and relate it back to feelings. This is emotional literacy, so children can maybe get more words to describe the way that they're feeling. But also we need to help them understand that the feelings that they're having are often the root cause of the behavior that they have. So if we think about behavior, if we think about how feelings are at the root of behavior, when children have good feelings in their roots, positive behavior will grow like a healthy tree. So feelings are very important. And understand that when behavior is negative, we have to check the root for ick. So if we have these challenging behaviors and children are displaying negative behaviors, we have to figure out, okay, is there ick going on here, and that's why these children are behaving the way that they're behaving, okay? So getting to the root cause of the behavior is going to lessen ick, but also going to help us as caregivers respond better to the behaviors that we're seeing, because behaviors are feelings that need to be understood. So when we are thinking about flip it, the first thing that we do is we take a look at the challenging behavior that's happening, and we say to children, the F. We start with the feeling. So how do children feel? We can say to children, I think that you are feeling so frustrated because, and we tell them what we see and what we hear. So because your face is doing this, or because your cheeks are really rosy. I think that you might be really sad because I see that you are crying, or I hear that you are talking to me with a whining voice. We talk about those feelings first because that tells children that we understand that something is going on inside of them, that they're not just being bad or being naughty, that something is happening that's making them feel this way. We can ask children, is this right? But sometimes even just giving it a guess is going to be better than not acknowledging the feeling at all. So we want to make sure that children understand that the feeling is something that we get. So what we can do is we can say things like, wow, it looks like you're feeling really, and then fill in the blank. What are you feeling? We can use those feeling faces that we've been given as resources. Point to the face that shows me how you're feeling. Your body is getting antsy. Are you feeling nervous? Giving children like the symptoms that they're showing so they can diagnose what feeling that they're having. This puts them in the driver's seat also. So the first step of flip it is identifying the feeling with a statement. And it's not going to take very long. We just kind of get to that point. The second step in the flip it mnemonic is the L. Sorry, this way makes an L for you guys. So L is the limit. So what we mean by a limits are our expectations. So limits are the things that we understand that we cannot allow children to do because it's either not safe or it goes against our classroom expectations. We understand that there are some situations where the limit is a hard limit, like you may not run in the street. It is not safe. Limits, however, should be created with loving intent. So they're created where it's designed to keep children safe in their environment. This step sometimes comes more naturally for people because we tell children what they can't do a lot. But we need to remind children in a positive way what the limits are in our classroom, what the expectations are for their behavior. So when I say a loving limit, what I mean is these are simple limits created lovingly to surround children with consistency and safety. So why are limits important? Children explore and they learn and they test limits. So they're going to try new things, test out what they can and cannot do. When we talk about problem solving. We want them to create solutions that they can test out. But sometimes all of that learning can come with challenging behavior. So when children are excited, they can be impulsive and they can test those limits, and that might cause them to have emotions that they might act out with in inappropriate ways. So limits are designed to help guide children towards healthy, safe, positive behaviors and choices. Loving limits tell children what you do expect, what is acceptable, how to keep themselves safe. So instead of saying, we don't do that here, we don't drive our cars on the wall, what we can say is we keep our cars driving on the floor. We keep each other safe. One of them is more positive than the other. Limits or rules are most successful when children have been invited to be a part of them, which is why we encourage you early on in CDA to create a short list of rules that the children help come up with so they can live with them and kind of honor them better. Lastly, when a challenging behavior does occur, we need to talk about our feelings and then remind the children of the limits and the expectations that we have for their behavior. So this, again, gives them trust in you and helps them feel safe. So understand that sometimes we have to start with the limit instead of the feeling. You may not run in the street. If you are going to be hurt, if safety is an issue, we start with the limit. But most of the time in Flip It, we say things like, I see that you are feeling sad. I'm wondering if you're feeling this way. So these are I wonder things that start with that feeling. I see that you're feeling sad. Remember that we can't run out of the classroom after mommy when she leaves. That's a full stop. It's not a can you or can't you statement. This is the limit. Again, coming back to that antsy example that I gave. Your body is getting antsy. Are you feeling nervous? It's okay to feel nervous. Sometimes the limit is a reminder that you are allowed to feel this way in our classroom because this is a safe place for children. I see that you're getting excited about our visitor and you're running in the room. Our rule is we sit at circle. So you can talk about that. The big thing with limits is we want to be talking to children about the feeling that we see and the limit without using the term but, because we don't want to say, I see that you're excited, but you can't do this. That comes from a place of negative and we want to keep it positive. So I see that you are feeling so excited that you're waving your hands all around. Remember to use gentle touches. Instead of, I see that you're so excited, you're waving your hands all around, we don't hit, but we don't hit. So there's a difference between that. So we start with the F, the feeling. We talk about the feeling we see. Then we give the loving limit. Again, in the course of a real conversation, this is not happening over 10 minutes, 20 minutes. This is real quick, one sentence after another. After we go to the L with the limit, we go to the I. I is for inquiry. And what we mean here is this is where we want children to be brainstorming what they can do instead of the behavior that we don't want them to do. So what I mean by that is the inquiry is a good question that we give children that's going to encourage them to think of a way through the challenging behavior. In the PowerPoint that accompanies this, we talk a lot about problem solving. We give children a solution kit, which is a resource that you will receive also. Sometimes when children are overwhelmed with feelings and they're frustrated by the limit that we give, it's difficult for them to cope. So they might shut down, they might act out. So what we can do, these challenges are an opportunity to learn. So what we can do is we can help them think of ways to cope. So those calm down strategies, and we can kind of help them get to that point if that's what they choose as their solution for their problem. But we need to help them through that problem solving vocabulary, and we need to create ways for them to successfully problem solve. So we need to let the children know that we're here and we believe that they are capable of solving this problem, coming up with a solution. And one of the things that we do as teachers is we guide them through by asking them to come up with solutions. That's why we call this the inquiry stage. But we also kind of remind them with questions that can get the gears turning in their head. What do you think we should do to get that toy back? Inquiries invite children to think, and then they learn and they can gain some self-control, okay? So one of the things that we want to remember is we want to remember that we don't want children to solve this problem by asking the adult for the solution and the adult giving it to them. Children are going to take the wheel here. So what we want them to do is we want them to come up with that inquiry on their own. But sometimes they can't. Sometimes we are asking the right questions. They're open-ended. They're not leading. We're not giving the children any solutions of our own, and they're just still so stuck that they can't figure it out. So one of the things that we can do is we can ask specific questions. How do you think we can fix this? How can we make this fun? Is there another way that we can X, Y, or Z? Is there a friendly way that you could? How can we make this easier? These are all questions that invite the solution to come from the child. However, sometimes they won't be able to get past this I stage, which is when we go to P, prompt. The prompt stage is helpful because it gives children the opportunity to still be a problem solver. But what we do is when children are having the difficulty, we give them the prompt. So it's like a creative cue, a suggestion for them. So we give them some bright ideas that can lead them to better problem solving skills, but children are still in the driver's seats. Children are still deciding why this is, what it is that they want to do. This is the solution that they're picking. Inquiries and open-ended questions aren't always going to lead children directly to a solution. So that's why we use the prompts. They help problem solvers see other possibilities. So if you have children who are just like, I'm going to just take that toy back, and that's where they're stuck, we can give them clues and suggestions about where to go. The solution kit cards that I'm giving you, these are great prompts. So when children are having a hard time coming up with solutions on their own, we can give them these prompts, and that's going to be really helpful. Some prompts are suggestions sometimes. So you might try tape to put that back together. Some prompts are sharing a personal example. When I'm frustrated, I blah, blah, blah. You can also offer positive choices. You could try grabbing your mittens and putting your hat on instead of waiting for Miss P to help you do that. Sometimes you use the child's strengths and interest. Can we play some music while you clean up to make this more fun? So you can think about why we want to do that. And the best thing for you to do is to be enthusiastic. Offer those bright ideas, and they're going to lead to better problem solving skills. So let's kind of recap here. The Flip It mnemonic is a strategy that helps you talk with children during a time of conflict or a time where they have a problem that needs a solution. We go through 4 steps that are all social emotional based, and they all are used to promote problem solving skills as well as emotional literacy. The F of Flip It starts with feelings. So when we see children having a conflict or a challenging behavior, we start with what we see. I see that you are feeling blah. I wonder if you are feeling blah. Give them the opportunity to tell you if you are wrong. So if you thought that they were sad, but actually they're just nervous, let them know. Use the visuals that you've been given in CDA. Tell me what you feel. Which one of these feeling faces reflects how your heart feels? Those kinds of things. Or you can give them the emotional literacy, those feelings words. So that's the F. After we talk about their feeling, we give them the limit because we don't want to use the terms stop, don't, no all the time because children hear them and they just wah, 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 wah. Instead of using the negative behaviors, we tell them the positive limit. This is the expectation for you. I see that you are feeling angry. You may not throw toys because it hurts my friends. I see that you are feeling sad. It's okay to feel sad when mom leaves. These limits remind children about the expectations we have of their behavior. Then we move to the inquiry. This is the I stage in Flip It. And this is where children are encouraged to come up with solutions. So if we say, I see that you're feeling sad. It's okay to feel sad when mom leaves. What can we do to put a smile back on your face? How can we make this better? These are open-ended questions. They're not always leading questions, although sometimes if you want to lead children into a question, I'm going to ask you to wait till the P stage, which is the prompt. So allow children to kind of take the driver's seat and think about what they might need or what they think would be a positive solution. If they are having trouble with the inquiry stage, move to P, which is the final stage of Flip It. This is the prompt stage. So maybe we can try Going to the calm down corner. Would you like to go get your lovey? These are prompts that we can offer children. They choose if they're going to do that prompt or not. So it allows them to be in the driver's seat. Flip it. So the flip part of flip it is designed to be minutes. It's just quick conversation back and forth between caregiver and child. Be reminded that sometimes we flop instead of flip. This is okay. If you flop, if things start to go wrong, children aren't open to thinking of new solutions, or they're angry with you because you gave them that limit and they don't like those limits. We always go back to the feelings. Start from the beginning. So I see that you were angry with your friend. You may not throw those toys. I see that you're angry because those are our rules. So if the child gets angry about that expectation, we talk about why that makes them angry. Always come back to the roots. That's where those feelings are. That's where the ick is. So we need to get to the bottom of it with feelings, because remember, feelings and relationships are the root and foundation for all learning. Without a relationship, we cannot expect children to learn anything in our care. So that is a 20-minute brief overview of Flip It. In your resources is a Flip It practice page. There are 3 sample pictures here of children exhibiting challenging behaviors. Here we have a little girl who's breaking her crayons. Here we have a little girl who's hiding under the table. And here we have 2 young boys who are fighting over paintbrushes. Part of your assignment for this class is addressing these challenging behaviors through Flip It. So there are spaces for you to write out what you think these children are feeling first, what you would say to them in the first stitch of Flip It. So, for example, and don't use this one. For example, you must be so angry. I see that you're breaking your crayons and making this face. You can see her making that face in that picture. That's our feeling. We said that she was feeling angry. Then we move on to the limit. So the limit here might be, we respect the crayons that Miss P bought us, or our new crayons, we can't break our new crayons. Full sentences that talk about the expectation that we have in the classroom. Then we move to the inquiry. Here, we want children to creatively problem solve. So I could say, if the limit was we don't break our new crayons, we could say we have that bucket of old crayons. What could we do with those? Open-ended question. Or we could say, what else could we break? Open-ended question. We've left it. It's not leading. However, if this child is having a hard time thinking of an inquiry, an acceptable solution, we move to the prompt. Maybe that's when I introduce that bucket of old crayons and I say, these crayons are old. I bet that we could break them in half. Would you like to try that? FLIP, in the matter of seconds. So you will be doing the flip on these 3 behaviors, and we'll be talking about them. Flip It is a positive guidance strategy. It is not the only strategy. If it doesn't work for your children, that is completely fine. But remember that if we are using a strategy, we have to use it more than once in order for us to have said that we've given it our best try. So in the PowerPoint are many other strategies for challenging behaviors, but this is one that I had promised that we would demo. I hope that you enjoyed this quick Flip It. If you have any other questions, you can contact me via email. Bye, CDA 96.